So we are 10 days before Brexit, and boy oh boy was the weekend quite eventful. I'm going to start by talking briefly about the parliamentary debate and vote. So Oliver Letwin, a Remain MP from a Leave constituency, tabled a motion to delay Boris bringing forward his Brexit deal, which passed by about a majority of, I think, 11 or 12. So Oliver Letwin has since changed his mind and now supports Boris Johnson's deal, much like Amber Rudd does, much like Theresa May does. In fact, enough MPs have outright now said they support the deal. So Boris Johnson is today going to try and get his deal through Parliament, which might get stymied by a number of factors. So shortly after Boris lost that particular vote in Parliament, making his win-loss record still 100% losses, he was very evasive as to whether or not he would send the letter to the EU asking for the extension. Well, a letter has been sent asking for an extension, but the letter he sent does not have his signature, which has actually got a number of MPs going straight to the courts to try and find out whether or not he has committed a crime, i.e. contempt of court. There are other cases ongoing, one whether or not the deal should even be brought to Parliament in the first place, in the Scottish courts. That's amusing. Labour, somewhat amusingly, want to back a customs union single market deal, comprehensive and new, so membership without paying for it, nice cherry pick, going so far as to outright state this on national television, which I can't show you. They've also said they will not back the deal because it's worse than Theresa May's. It is if you are a Remainer. Let's go with that. And the full detail of his deal is still not entirely known, as it would have to be negotiated. The same applied to Theresa May's. All we saw was a baseline, and it just got worse. The same could apply to Boris Johnson's. For the sake of fairness, it is possible, depending on how well they negotiate, but based on the fact they managed to renegotiate many aspects of the withdrawal agreement and get it open in the first place to negotiate it, one has to admire the fact that Stephen Barclay and Boris Johnson got it done. But going back to Labour for a moment, see, their plan, their really clever plan, is not to force through their idea or a general election, but to have a second referendum, which again was announced on TV. And as if it wasn't already known how the Labour Party handled dissenting views, it's already been known that his Stalinist bullies are whipping their party in line to vote against any deal that Boris brings forward. Based on how close Oliver Letwin's bill was, his amendment to delay, which is absolutely sickening. I'm surprised he wasn't expelled from the party for it. Considering we have 10 days left, this is cutting it close. It'll be very interesting to see if the Speaker of the House will use a level of bias and step beyond his post to not allow the bill forward or to force additional amendments that would undermine the withdrawal agreement in the first place. It should be noted, Macron has outright said he will veto any extension. Whether or not this means anything, because everyone in the EU has said at least once they'll do it but hasn't done it yet, is up for debate and will certainly be discussed nearer the time. In the meantime, though, Boris is going to try and get his deal through Parliament, and the Chancellor and Duchy of Lancaster, Michael Sneck Gove, has declared that Operation Yellowhammer starts now. Operation Yellowhammer is the steps taken in the event of no deal, with him declaring that the UK will leave the EU on October 31st. On Saturday, there were a number of protesters outside Parliament, all of whom Remainers wanting a second vote. I couldn't help but notice the majority of them were incredibly young. I wonder why. Let me just put this out there because it really bugs me. Yes, you now old enough to vote were not old enough when we had the referendum, but that does not mean you now get to choose whether we leave or not. This is not a case of let's keep doing it until enough young people vote in favour of Remain. And let's not forget here, there are people that have passed that voted on it. Their votes should never be considered null and void in favour of what people are trying to push, which is a let's continue voting on it until the right side wins. because that kind of behaviour shows you do not care for democracy. I've seen Anna Soubry and a bunch of other Remainers, Ramonas, whatever you want to call them, saying, we need a people's vote. We need to have another vote, because if we don't keep voting on this, we'll never get it right. We voted on it, Anne. We voted on it, Caroline Lucas. We voted on it, Joe Swinson. We voted on it, Jeremy Corbyn. We voted on it, Ian Blackford. Shut the fuck up. We voted leave. We have 10 days to get a deal or leave without one. And all your actions while claiming to stand up for the Remainers indicate you are in favour of no deal by proxy. Grow up. Accept defeat for once. There's sore loser, and then there is Ramona. It is getting quite pathetic.